Hello, core artisans. My name is Shonda, and welcome to my channel, Under the Needle Quilting and Crafts. So today I want to give a summary of the Stripology Virtual Retreat for 2024. This is my third year doing it. I missed the first year because I hesitated. I waited to sign up because I wasn't sure, because it was a hefty price tag. I think the first year was like $395 or something like that. And it was a lot. COVID was going, and, there was a lot going on. And I wasn't sure. And so I waited a few days. And when I went to sign up, it was already sold out. So I missed year one. Year two, years 2, 3, and 4, I made it. But also she opened up a second session for those years because it was so popular the first year that she started doing 2 sessions the following years. I believe there were 2 sessions all 3 years that I did it, if I'm not mistaken. So I just kind of want to give you an overview of what it's like and that type of stuff. I already did an unboxing where I showed what you get in your box, right? Where I showed that you get fabric. We got 12 half yards of fabric of a coordinating line. Sometimes all the prints might come from the same line, or like in the case of my bundle, she sourced coordinating prints to mix into the line. But everything goes together really well. Looking at it, you would just think it was all one line. It just matches that well. We also got another fabric. We got 2 1 yards that we can use for binding. And then we also got 3.5 yards of background fabric. So in addition to that, we got snacks that correspond with our destinations. And we got props that also correspond with our destinations. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what the day-to-day is like. So about 2 to 3 weeks before retreat, you get this big old box with all your stuff in it, right? It's got your fabric, your snacks, labels, like quilt labels, all that stuff comes in the box. About a week before, you get in your GE account, cutting instructions that tells you how you should cut your bundle, your 12 half yards of prints, and how you should cut your background fabric, right? So it's just cutting instructions. You don't have any pattern yet. Just this is how you need to cut your fabric. And I'm so hot. I'm hot. I'm sweating. I'm going to turn this fan on, and hopefully the noise isn't too loud. I'm about to die over here. Sheesh. I'm glistening. And with those cutting instructions, she also gives you a video that goes with the cutting instructions. So if you are a newbie and you need to see the fabric cut, you need to see it actually done, she also has a video where she cuts the fabric and you can cut it with her. Now, she is the creator of something called a Stripology ruler, this is one of them. This is the Stripology squared. And this is the Stripology XL. She also has 2 smaller rulers that I don't have and probably won't get. These are enough for me. So she does show you how to use her ruler, and she also shows you how to use a regular ruler. I used a combination of both depending on what I was cutting. I'm not a newbie, and I taught myself how to cut using a regular 6.5 by 24.5 inch ruler. So for a lot of cuts, I still use that ruler. But then for some of the cuts, I did use her ruler, depending on what I was cutting and what my needs are. But she does show you how to do both. So that's a week before. Then the day before the retreat starts, you get the full patterns for day 1 and day 2. Now, you get 3 patterns with this. So in addition to all the value in the box that you get in the mail, you're also getting 3 patterns. In addition to that fabric that I mentioned, there was also a separate fabric pack that had 12 fat 12ths. So that's a yard. And then I think there was an additional half yard in there for an accent fabric. So there's that. So in addition to all that value, you're getting 3 patterns. 2 quilts with multiple sizes ranging from crib to king, and then a table runner pattern. So that just kind of adds some value to what you're getting, right? And I think she sells her patterns for like $10, and the smaller patterns are like $5. So that's $25 in added value in patterns. Okay, so the retreat. Each day we have a destination. And because we're virtual, our destination can be whatever we want it to be. We can go anywhere. And this year, the team decided that we would visit specific places at a specific period in time. So day 1, we're visiting New York City, June 10th, 1985. Okay? And so each day, they kind of give you a little bit about that place that you're visiting, like a little history, right? They show you pictures of what would have been in that place at that time, iconic places and things like that, which is kind of nice. So the Zoom opens at, I'm going to put everything in Eastern time because that's the time zone that I'm in. They're in Central time. But the Zoom opens at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Okay? And that's just a kind of a free you can be in the main room where there's always music playing, and that's where all of our games and activities happen, in the main Zoom room. And you can just be in that main room and just listen to music. You can't talk to people in that room, but you can be in that main room and just listen to music. Or you can go into one of the other breakout rooms that they have open. They usually have a couple open for people that just want to log in early, or maybe they're in an earlier time zone, and or that they're just in a different time zone where that's just a different time for them and they want to log in and start sewing early. That's certainly something that people can do. But the actual stuff doesn't start until 10:30. Now, day 1, there was some housekeeping that we had to go over that started at 10. But for the other 2 days, the Zoom is just open from 9 to 10:30 for just whatever you want to do. I was not in the retreat at that time. I did half days for work. I didn't want to take off full days. So I worked every day from 7:30 to 10:30. And then I snuck in another hour later in the day to get my 4 hours in for the day. So I was never logged in early. But day 1, 10 o'clock, we just did some housekeeping items where because they just let you know of any potential complications you might have with Zoom. If you get a black screen, if you want to do this is how you need to find the raise your hand. Because, let's be honest here. Our community tends to be a little older, right? And a lot of people aren't very computer savvy. And it looks different depending on if you're on your phone or if you're on your iPad or if you're on your computer. And if you have a Android or iPhone, it's different. So they just kind of went over some stuff. It tends to be the iPads that tend to have the most problems, it seems. But yeah, just a little bit of that. And then at 10:30, there's a demo. And basically, she takes a part of the pattern and says, okay, part 1, I want you to do the first 5 steps of the pattern. So we're going to piece this unit, right? Steps 1 through 5 or whatever steps there are. And she'll say, okay, so just do that. And so you get some time, some free sewing time to work on what she just showed you. And she basically says, hey, everybody needs to sew at their own pace. This is not a race, all she really wants you to do is to get a few done so that you learn the process, so that later when you're on your own, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, when you come back to this project, you'll have worked those steps and they'll be familiar to you. And then you get, it just depends on the day, but you'll get a couple of hours. And you can either stay in the main room, where again, you can't talk to anyone, but the music is playing. And there's a different playlist for every day. And the playlists correspond to where we're going and when. And so day 1's playlist was all 80s pop and R&B, which I am a huge fan of. So for me, day one, I spent almost the entire day in the main room. I didn't really talk to a lot of people because I was really, really digging the playlist, really loving the music. Just hit after hit after hit. I was in here jamming, okay? To the part where, like, sometimes I would have to leave and go off camera and dance because I didn't want to be like doing all this, I would be doing all that in front of my camera, right? Because people can see me. So I would go around out of the camera site so I could like bust a move, right? So, but there are there are breakout rooms, and so during that free sewing time, they'll open up the breakout rooms and they'll assign you to a room, but you don't have to stay there. You can choose to stay in that room, or you can choose to float around and find a room that you vibe with more, or that has better, or that has conversation going that appeals to you more. Or there might be a room where people aren't really talking much at all, or that you just might not like the conversation. So you can just bounce around and see kind of where you fit and where you want to, excuse me, I'm sorry, and see where you want to go. And then after the free sew, we kind of come back to the main room. And while you're in those breakout rooms, Gudrun does come and visit and talks to everyone. And she asks if you are having any questions, if any questions that you have about the pattern. When she does the demo, she asks if you have any questions. And people do. They raise their hands and she answers everyone's questions. But then when we go into our individual rooms, she visits those rooms and it's just your time to talk to her. You can talk to her about the pattern if you have a question, or if you don't have a question about the pattern, you can just talk to her in general. And she's sewing too, which is kind of neat. In past years when she visited the rooms, she was just kind of visiting the rooms, just talking to us. But this year she was actually working on her projects, and it was kind of nice for her to be sewing while we were sewing. I liked that. After that time is over, we go back to the main room. And just check in with everyone. They check in. We're just checking in, and then we go to lunch. This would be 1:00 my time. So we go to lunch, and there's like an hour lunch break, and then we come back from lunch, and there's another demo where she shows you more of the pattern. And usually like the second half of the pattern, and then there'll be you'll go back to your rooms. You'll go back to your breakout rooms, or again, stay in the main room for another hour or two. And then we come back to the main room. And every time you're going into the breakout rooms, Gudrun does come visit every single time. Right? So that's not downtime for them. I don't know how they did 2 of these back to back. Like, I don't know how. Because there's no downtime. There's no downtime for them, except for like their lunch break and their dinner break. There's no downtime, because in that time, again, she's visiting the rooms and she spends a good 15 minutes in there, just kind of chatting it up and stuff like that. Or at least in the room that I was in, people engaged with her quite a bit, and so she was in there for about at least 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and then she goes to the next room. And there's just like 5 rooms, so. Then we come back to the main room and we have a little yoga break. We do yoga every day. Her husband, Mr. HP, his real name is Kirk, but she calls him Mr. HP, Mr. Honey Producer, because he's her honey and he's also the producer of her show. And he also is a producer of music. He's a music producer. So she does a cocktail for every day. And Mondays, the first day's cocktail was a cosmopolitan. There's a recipe for every day. The recipe that we got was for a New York City hot dog. And there's a recipe in here for the New York City onion sauce recipe that they put on top of the hot dogs. I did not make the hot dogs. I didn't make any of the recipes. But we do have a little costume for every day. And since it was 1985 in New York City, we had the little mesh gloves. And we had, the little jelly bracelets. I've already lost mine. I don't know where they are. We had two little jelly bracelets for our little costume. Now, Gudrun, of course, she zhuzhed it up a little bit and she wore like an 80s style shirt, t-shirt, and she, put a banana clip in her hair on the side. And other people got into it too, where they found items in their house or items in their wardrobe to kind of make it a bit more 80s. And they kind of got into that. And that was fun to see. That was kind of cute to see. I didn't do any of that for 80s Day. I just put on my little bracelets and I put these on because I power sewed day one. I was determined that I wanted to finish all the blocks for my quilt on day one, for that first quilt. And I did. I got all of my blocks done for that quilt. All 48 of them. They have to be squared up though, but I'm fine with that. But they're all done. So I power sewed. Formal instruction. So after cocktail hour and bingo, we play bingo every day. And they do some other stuff, too. But after that, then we have our dinner break. And then after the dinner break, we come back to the main room and there's more games and there's some type of presentation. So it might be a historical presentation about the place we're visiting, or it might be something just good, like a presentation that Gudrun just has about whatever. I can't remember what it was on day one, to be honest. I don't remember. I have no idea. I remember day two, but I have no idea. I do not remember day one, what the presentation was. But I know that I enjoyed it. But, and then after the presentation, that's like an hour and a half. So it's like an hour and a half we're together after dinner. Just in the main room, and just interacting back and forth. And people get to talk. So people get to raise their hand if they have something to say. I know I said something on day one, but I think that was the only time. Some people, every time there's an opportunity to raise their hand and get on that camera and speak. There were some people that you saw them every day, multiple times a day, raising that hand to ask that question. I'm not that person. That's just not me. But some people, are more vocal and extroverted than I am. So I didn't do a whole lot of talking. At least not raising my hand to talk in the main room. Our day one snack was these pretzels. They were so good. Those pretzels were so good. They were delicious. I did eat my snacks on the corresponding day. So some people ate their snacks the day they came in the mail. Right? I ate my snacks. I saved my snacks and I ate the snack that corresponded to the city that we were going to. So that was day one. Good time. I know some people have, anyway, the schedule is pretty much the same every day. So there's no point in me going through that. It's the same. It's demo, free sew time, lunch, demo, free sew time, bingo, dinner, presentation, in the main room talking, free sew. That's the schedule every day. You are busy all day. All day. You're busy all day. This is not like I had more free time at my in-person retreat than I do this virtual retreat because they keep that schedule and you are busy. You are busy. I was busy. I was more busy at the retreat than I was if I had just worked all day. And I was more tired from the retreat than if I had just worked all day. Day two, like I said, same schedule, except we were in Chicago in 1922. So I did want to make a correction. I don't know if y'all watched the video, but I think I had said that the average salary was $31,000. It's $3,100. So that makes a bit more sense. But the presentation that day, was a Q&A, ask us anything. And so you could just literally ask them anything, where it's like how they met, if it's like, so you can ask like personal questions about, like how they met, or, what they like to do in their free time, or what, kind of like get to know you questions, or not. You can ask about quilting if you want, or color theory, or whatever you want to ask, you can ask. So that was fun. Also on Friday, Mr. Honey Producer, he's produced a musical show, based on, I think, the Temptations, the Four Tops. I forgot who all the groups were, but he showed us a little snippet of the show he put together, like a little 6-minute clip, which was nice. I liked that. That was nice, and got to hear some Temptation songs. It was good. It was a good time. The snack for that day was Chicago style popcorn, which is caramel corn and cheese popcorn mixed together. I tried one of each together. It wasn't bad, but it's not for me. I'm a plain girl. I don't want all those flavors together. I don't really like the sweet and salty together. I like my salty. I like my sweet. I don't really like them together. So the people like to put peanuts in their Coca-Cola, not for me. So I separated mine out and ate them separately. It was delicious. The recipe was a Chicago deep dish pizza. I definitely wasn't making that. And you don't have time, honestly. You don't have time to make this. You got to make the crust from scratch. I ordered pizza. I ordered Domino's. I ordered Domino's. Actually ordered pasta. I ordered some pasta from Domino's and some hot wings. I was not making that. And the drink for that day was an old fashioned. And our costume, since we were in 1920 Chicago, we had the pearls and we had the little flower. And of course, if you've got items that you can use to zhuzh it up and make it more 20s, people certainly did that. They took pictures, they posted them, because there's a Facebook group that's just for the retreat, just for this retreat, in both groups. So session 1 and session 2. I was in session 2. Well, yeah, I was in the session that came second. Sometimes it comes second, but it's first. It doesn't matter. But like, so the retreat from 2023 would have a completely different Facebook group for those retreaters. And this one for 2024, it has its own. So you can see, people posting the pictures. So as you're seeing people on screen and you're taking part of this, you can go to the Facebook group and you can see where other people are in their blocks and the construction of their blocks and how they're doing. And each day they do a slideshow also, where they show you, they go and they grab pictures from the Facebook group and they do a slideshow of those pictures. So you get to see, what everybody's doing, what people are working on. People dressed up their dogs in the outfits. It was just a good time. It was a good time. I did not get all my blocks done on day 2. I did not. But I also interacted more on day 2. In day 2, I was not in the main room because big band music really isn't my thing. And although there was some other music mixed in, it just seemed mostly like older music that's not really music that's gonna keep me, bopping like the 80s stuff does. So I spent a lot of day 2, most of day 2, in the breakout rooms and not in the main room. Actually, all of day 2, I was in the breakout rooms and I wasn't in the main room at all, except when we were all in there as a collective group. And so since I'm in there, since I'm talking more, I'm not like power sewing as much. So I did a lot more socializing and chatting on day 2. Day 3, we were in San Francisco, January 14th, 1967. That's why I had the glasses yesterday, and I had that tie-dye headband, because I decided I would do a little extra on the last day, and I went and got the little tie-dye headband I had got from the Cayman Islands when I took a cruise. And I threw that on. and I put my glasses on, and I had my little peace sign on. So that was the costume for Friday. I also spent a lot of Friday in the breakout rooms and doing a bit more chatting. I will say this, I did not sew a whole lot on Friday. I was tired. Like when I went to my in-person retreat, I left refreshed. Because I spent most of my time sitting on my balcony watching the ocean. Then I spent most of my time, day one, all of that. I got all those blocks done from 10:30 in the morning. And I think I finished about 9:30 that night. I finished pressing the last block. But day two, I stopped on time. I think I stopped at like 8:30, because I was tired. I was starting to get tired. Yeah, so about eight. I think it was probably like 8:45. But yeah, I think it was 8:45 on day two. I turned it in. I was like, I knew that there was a certain point that I wanted to get done. I got that done, and I said, I'm not going to try to push it. I'm not going to try to do any more sewing. So back to day three. Day three, you've got a whole other project. Now I could have decided to start like sewing on my main project, but I didn't. I chose, because she demoed a new pattern, and so I decided as a palette cleanser just to not even try to sew that, and just to make a few blocks of the new pattern that she demoed. So I had been wanting to make some placemats for my table in my kitchen. I already made a table runner out of these fabrics. Well, not this fabric, but these batiks here, I made a table runner out of these fabrics. So I took and I've been wanting to take the leftovers and make placemats. So just the idea of starting the project that I was doing the day before, it just wasn't appealing, to just start back to that sewing. So I decided just to take a break from that quilt, and she did the demo, and so I just decided to get all my fabric cut, to make these blocks and make a few sample blocks. So that's what I did. And then later I went to making my blocks. I got, so on day two, I got 16 blocks done, right, of this. And then I got probably 30% of the way done, for another 32 blocks. So that's 16. I've got another 32 blocks that I need to do. I did start working on them though. I worked on them a little bit. I at least matched up what was going to go with what, and I did start sewing. But when the retreat ended, because it ends a little bit early on the last day, so instead of going to like 8:30 and then having free sewing until 11, like Zoom rooms until 11, on the last day we ended at 7 p.m. And when we ended, I ended. I was tired. I basically went to bed. Well, I mean, I didn't go to sleep, but I basically went to my bed. And Adrian was not here. Adrian went to Georgia yesterday morning, so he wasn't here. So I could have sewn all night if I wanted to. Normally I don't sew all night because I try to spend time with him. I could have sewn all night, but I was too tired. I'm still tired. This is Saturday. It's the next day. I am tired. But that was on me, right? Because I chose to do all that marathon sewing on day one. Like my upper shoulders hurt. because I'm just not used to sewing that many hours. Like I did, like I went through an entire bobbin, a pre-wound bobbin. I started sewing with a pre-wound bobbin. I ran out of that bobbin on day 2. So it was a lot. It was a lot of sewing. It was a lot. It was a lot of sewing. It was and then I cut my fabrics like 2 days before. So, or maybe 3 days before the retreat. So, I did that. That's why I didn't do any sewing that week. I deliberately didn't do any sewing because I knew that I was going to want to sew a lot that first day. Like I knew that I was, and that's okay. So yeah, my shoulders are still hurting, but that's because of me. That was a choice that I made. But for anybody that wants to know what this is like, you don't have to worry about what to do or where to go or anything because it is all meticulously planned. I do think I might make the meal for day 3 for San Francisco. I forgot to say the drink was a Mai Tai. I did not. I stuck with the Cosmo because I wasn't buying all these different liquors. So I bought the ingredients for the Cosmo, and that was what I had for cocktail hour every day. But the snack was the oyster crackers. Why didn't nobody tell me oyster crackers is just saltines? They're saltines. This whole time, I never knew what an oyster cracker was. I'd never eaten one. Never. I've seen them. I just always assumed they tasted like oysters. So day 3, I opened my little bag of oyster crackers. I tentatively pop one in my mouth because I'm expecting some kind of seafood flavor. And it's a daggone saltine. Just in a different shape. Instead of a square and flat, it's like hexagonish and roundish. But it's a freaking saltine. It's a saltine. Why didn't nobody tell me oyster crackers are just saltines? But the recipe was for rice-a-roni, which does look delicious. We also had some shortbread cookies in there. They didn't correspond with any particular place that we visited, but they were outstanding. They were probably some of the best shortbread cookies I've ever had. And then, of course, we had another snack, and that was the malted balls that were delicious. I did find out that little silver orb somebody had it right. It is for your beverage. It is to keep your beverage cold. That's what it's for. So whoever said that that's probably what it was, you are correct. Of course, we're on a train, so we got a train whistle. People found out that this works really well as a clapper. It's a good time. It's a good time. I had a smile on my face for 3 days. For 3 days. It was worth every penny. At first, I was kind of like hemming and hawing because the price had gone up a little bit. It was worth every penny. Every penny. I had the most, I just had a ton of fun. I had a ton of fun. I got to meet people. Oh, and then one of the things, she even had a lady come on to show us how, like, quilting ideas and give us quilting plans. And her name is Nita. I actually met her at last year's retreat. She wasn't at this year's retreat because she was teaching a class, but she was at last year's retreat, and she was in one of my rooms. I learned so much from that lady. You learn so much just from the people that you're interacting with. But I had learned so much from that lady. And she does a lot of free motion quilting. She does free motion quilting classes. Her name is Nina Klotfelter. And Gudrun had her come and do a presentation about how to quilt it, and they gave us the freaking quilting plans. And when she does the demos, it's not just her sitting there talking to you. She pre-records the demos, and she physically shows you how to do it, how to put the pieces together. And then that demo goes into your account, and it stays there forever. Forever. I can go back now and go and look at all the demos that she did for the 2022, like the first retreat I ever went to in 2022. And it's still there. And the pattern's still there. It's all there. And so you get to actually see. And the demo that she did for the quilting, that's in my, well, not the recorded conversation, but the actual quilting plans. I printed them off, and if I choose to do that, which I probably won't because I'm not that good at free motion quilting, but yeah, it's all in my account. It's all there. I get to see her physically put together the block, piece by piece. Physically watch her cut the fabric, and I have access to that forever. I can watch it anytime I want. So, I think the price was $439. It was either $439 or $469. I can't remember right now. But for that money, you get 12 half yards of fabric. You get 2 1 yards of fabric. You got 3.5 yards of background, and the background was not white. It was not a solid. It is a print. So it costs as much as the prints. We got a fabric pack that has 1.5 yards of fabric in it because it's got 12 fat 12s. That's 6 by 21. And it's got a 1/2 yard in there for an accent. Is it accent or binding? Hold on. Yeah, no, I think it's 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 2 in there. I don't know if they're 1/4 yards or half yards, but there's 2. 1 for your binding and 1 for your accent. So you get that. That fabric pack sells on her website for $20 every day. Those 12 half yards, they sell generally on her website from $79 to $84, depending, right? You got all the snacks that I told you about. You got all the little costume things that I told you about. You got that little silver engraved ball to keep your drinks cold. You got 2 quilt labels for the quilts. You get 2 quilt patterns with all sizes from crib to king. You get another pattern for a table runner. You get the train whistle. You get the, what else? There's more. I got a friction pen. I got the bag. I think I showed you guys the tote bag that I got. This massive tote bag. We got some stickers. The ruler stickers. We got I'm trying to think what else we got. I know I'm forgetting something. Anyway, I can't remember. But then on top of that, you are getting personal instruction from the person who wrote the pattern, where they actively show you how, step by step, how to make the pattern, step by step. And then the ability to ask as many questions as you need to ask to understand what to do. And then on top of that, you get 3 full days of non-stop activities, games, bingo. You get the opportunity to meet a bunch of people. There was like 150 of us. So you have an opportunity to meet with up to 150 people, depending on how social you are and how much you want to bounce around. And you never have to leave your house. So unless something catastrophic happens in my life, I will be doing this next year. It was that much fun. I forgot how much fun it was, honestly. But I enjoyed it last year. I enjoyed it the year before. And to me, every year seems to get better. there's like more, they put more into it. And that makes sense because their business has grown and they have more staff now than they did when they did the first one or even the second one or even the third one. They have more staff now. And so they just have a lot more help. And so they can just do a lot more. We also got a 10% off coupon on the back of this booklet that we can use between April 1st and the 15th for 10% off. I probably won't use it because I just bought something from them. I just bought something from them. There was a bundle. It was on sale. And then I had a $30 off coupon from my rewards points. And I bought a bundle of fabric. So it's a good time. It's a good time. And you get to choose your fabric. So there's many options. Many options. This year probably had the least options, not because she didn't want to offer them. It just, there was nothing available that was like super colorful this year. That's why I just went with what matched my home, because the rest of it I wasn't really drawn to. Now, if I had seen the Feed Sacks Good Works in person, I probably would have chosen that one instead of what I did. But I'm glad I picked what I picked because it does match my home. So at least it makes sense to have two quilts with the same daggone fabric. I can rotate them out. I will say that I do wish, I saw some other people that chose this same colorway, and some people chose a different background, and I wish I had done that. One lady chose this like a light gray, or like a light or medium gray. It was so awesome in that gray. Another person did black, but I thought the black was too stark. I had considered navy myself, but I didn't want to use a navy. I didn't want to use a navy solid. I would have wanted to use like a dark navy grunge, but then I would have had to buy fabric. And so instead of purchasing fabric, I just chose to use what came with the kit. Because since I didn't have anything in my stash that was going to work, I did have the gray, but I wasn't sure about the gray. But seeing the gray, I kind of wish I had pulled, because I've got enough. I've got some art gallery gray over there, and I could have used that, and that would have been great. And it would have stayed cleaner longer. This white, it's not solid white, but, anywho. Yeah, so that's kind of my sum up of the Stripology Virtual Retreat for 2024. We took a virtual train ride, and we had a good fun. Like, it was an immersive experience. Like, her husband, Mr. HP, he had a conductor outfit that he wore every day. They had train sounds that they would play randomly sometimes. Like, it was a good time. It was a good time. Yeah, so like I said, I enjoyed it. If it's something that you are thinking about, and it's within your budget to do so, I say go for it. Like I said, she does have shop pay. You can break it up into 4 payments. It generally comes around in December. Now, she did talk this year about doing it at a different time as far as the sign up. So she was asking about, like, hey, what if we did it, instead of doing it 3 months before, what if we did it 6 months before, right? So 6 months before is when you say, yes, I'm in, I want to go to retreat. And then 3 months later, you choose your fabric. So normally 3 months before is when everything stops. Everything starts. It's like, here are your fabric options. You sign up now, you pay now, right? But it's in December, which is right around Christmas and New Year's. It's a difficult time for some people. It was a difficult time for me. That's why I had to break it up in 4 payments, four monthly payments to be able to afford it. Was it? I paid it off. I paid it off early, but yeah, it was supposed to be 4 monthly payments. But I ended up paying it off in like February. When I got my bonus, I just paid it off. But yeah, so I don't know for sure if they're going to do it, but that might be what they do, where you go in, instead of it being December, it's like September. And in September, they're saying, hey, do you want to go to retreat? And then you sign up and you pay at that point. And then come December, that's when the fabric drops and you choose your fabric at that point. And a lot of people were definitely on board with that as an option, so that it doesn't fall around December anymore, when people have other financial obligations because of the holidays, whether it be Christmas gifts, travel, or both. So there's that. So that might be a thing this year. So anywho, yeah. So that is it for me, you guys, and I'll see you next video.